AITA for eating sexy potatoes? Update in comments. I was told for some reason the update isn't showing up through the link, so I've pasted it at the bottom of this text. It's long, so I apologize. It honestly feels ridiculous that I have to post this, but my coworker has been getting on to me about this for weeks now, so I have to ask. My whole life, I've been eating potatoes by microwaving them, then biting into them, eating them hot dog style. This is the easiest, most convenient and intuitive way for me to eat potatoes, sweet potatoes or regular. I think this is how people in Japan eat them, or at least, this is how I was taught by my Japanese parents to eat them. Whenever I go to a grocery store, I always pick out the most easily biteable potatoes, which are generally longer and thinner than most potatoes. Though I work in an office of about 30 people, we all typically bring our own lunch, and I usually just eat at my desk while doing work. No one has ever commented about how I eat potatoes, but I do eat them quite frequently. Recently, a new person was hired, and she clearly has a problem with the way I eat potatoes. A couple times, she pulled me aside and asked me that I just eat potatoes a more normal way. I asked her what she meant, and I was eating potatoes too suggestively. I was a little shocked because I literally just have my eyes glued to my screen whenever I'm eating and barely pay attention to how I eat. I told her no one else seemed to have a problem with the way I eat potatoes, but she insisted others were just too polite to say anything. I asked a few other co-workers who all were just as confused as me about what she was saying. I figured no one else really had a problem with it, but this happened multiple times. She kept coming to me and asking me to tone down the way I eat, even accusing me of going out of my way to choose sexy potatoes. I've considered bringing them other ways, but this is just the easiest way for me to eat them, and they're honestly delicious like this to me. I asked her to maybe just not watch me eat, but apparently that's just not feasible. Unfortunately, she reported me, and now I have a meeting with HR next week. This seems really dumb to me, but AITA for eating sexy potatoes? ? Edit, thank you for the gold. And thank you to everyone who gave tips on how to approach HR. I will update after the meeting. Edit 2, please stop asking me for videos of me eating potatoes. It's creepy and weird, and also would be extremely boring and the least sexy thing you'll ever watch. Edit 3, because I've gotten a ton of comments asking how to microwave a potato. Scrub potato thoroughly with a sponge to remove dirt. Stab the potato with a fork or knife all over. Then put in the microwave for about 5 minutes, more or less depending on the size of the potato and power of the microwave. Then flip and do the same thing. To tell if it's done, poke through the center with a knife or fork. You can generally tell how soft it is by stabbing through it. The texture will be relatively intuitive. Make sure you let the potato cool for at least 10 minutes, potentially longer, or it'll be too hot to eat. When you're ready to consume, I usually hold it wrapped around a napkin. I'm sacrilegious, so I eat the skin, but you don't have to. I'll sometimes add butter or regular potatoes, but I normally just sprinkle some salt as I eat it. Sweet potatoes, I just eat as is. Either way, you will probably need to drink water or some liquid with it. Enjoy. Update, so I had a couple meetings with HR. The first one was on my own yesterday morning alone with the HR woman. According to her, a co-worker had reported me for sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Not going to lie. After hearing those accusations, I was honestly pretty scared. Sexual harassment is a really serious charge. I was allegedly making lewd gestures while eating, despite repeatedly being asked to stop. I told her exactly what had happened. I was eating potatoes the same way I always had in the 4 years I've worked in this office. No one else had ever had a problem with this until now. The new co-worker, let's call her Karen, approached me, telling me I was eating potatoes inappropriately and told me to eat them another way. I had explained to her that this was how I grew up eating them and would not stop. If it bothered her, she could, and should, look away. I continued eating potatoes this way. Then over the next several weeks, she kept complaining about my potatoes every time I ate them this way. As I explained my side, I could tell HR was getting really annoyed. I don't think she believed that this was all there was to it. She pressed for more information, Are you sure you didn't do anything to make her believe you were being inappropriate? Are you sure you weren't harassing her, even unintentionally? I told her I never even talked to her unless it was about work or if she approached me first. HR thanked me for coming in and told me she'd get back to me. I think she met with Karen after that. And later in the day, we had a meeting with the three of us. Karen says that I lied about not doing anything to make her uncomfortable. That after the first time she came to me, asking me to eat my potatoes differently, I dismissed it as a joke, which to be fair, I did because, deadass, which I acknowledged because, who wouldn't take it as a joke? And she claimed that after each time she asked me to tone it down, I escalated by choosing increasingly sexy potatoes to eat in front of her, by which point, I'm pretty sure HR was trying hard not to roll her eyes. I responded by telling Karen the first literally gave zero thought about her when I bought my potatoes and selected them based on ease of cooking/eating. She accused me of making eye contact with her while I was eating, which, I think I did every time she watched me eat, because it's really uncomfortable having someone watch me eat. Which I explained, and told her I had repeatedly asked her to stop watching me eat. She then pointed out that no one else eats potatoes this way, and the only reason I would do so is to try to be provocative. Which I swear to God, HR almost laughed at her. I just showed her a video of Japanese people eating potatoes with your hands and biting into them. HR woman knows me and knows I'm not the type to harass someone or deliberately make a hostile work environment, and at the end, she just said something like I'm sorry about the misunderstanding. Perhaps it really would be best to look another way while your coworker is eating. Basically trying to politely tell Karen to get her head out of her ass. Then Karen tried to turn it around by claiming I was making a hostile work environment by telling other coworkers bad things about her. But literally all I had done was ask others if they were uncomfortable with the way I eat, and explaining why I had asked them. She tried yet another angle, claiming that the way I ate them, with my hands, was a COVID risk, and that I was putting the safety of the office in jeopardy by eating this way. HR then said that if she was so concerned, she was welcome to work from home, as is currently company policy. I work in hardware, so it's harder for me to work from home. But Karen works in support, so it would be really easy for her to work from home. Eventually Karen had to concede she had nothing left, so we were all dismissed. Later, I talked to my coworker who had stopped bringing curry because of Karen, let's call him so yeah, about the problems I had with her. He had been unable to eat his regular Indian lunches in the office because of her. We were both extremely annoyed, and honestly, I just felt extremely uncomfortable being in an office where she was constantly judging Asian people's food. So I decided to file a report with HR, as suggested by many of you. I pointed out how she was harassing Asian people for their food choices, and many of her comments towards me were bordering on sexual harassment. So yeah, agreed to bring curry for lunch today, and, in solidarity, I brought some too, along with my potatoes. Karen didn't comment at all, but she did give us dirty looks and made disgusted faces a few times. I actually got called into a meeting this afternoon with my boss, who is also one of the founders of the company. He confessed that he didn't like Karen either, and that she had multiple complaints about her within the first month of her being hired. She's been here just under 2. And that he had hired her as a favor to his wife, because she is his wife's cousin and had lost her job due to COVID. I wonder why they chose to let her go. He apologized to me on her behalf and assured me that he would talk to her. I decided to keep my harassment claim with HR, and have another meeting tomorrow. We'll see how this goes. Thank you all for your tips and suggestions. I will keep eating sexy potatoes for the foreseeable future. Smile. NTA. I honestly can't picture a suggestive way to eat a potato. Your coworker has issues. NTA, and it's probably worth turning it round and complaining that your coworker is making you uncomfortable by making sexual comments about you eating your lunch. I will probably do that, thank you. NTA, but please tell me this is a joke, cause it's freaking hilarious. Wish it were a joke. I honestly thought it was the first time she asked me about it. AITA for telling my BF that he has no say on whether or not my son goes to his biodats. I had my son 7 years ago, when I was 20. His father didn't think he was ready to be a dad because he was a heavy partier and has never met him, but he has always been on top of child support payments. He wanted to pay, because he didn't want to be a deadbeat. A year and a half ago I met my current boyfriend. He moved in after 8 months. From the very beginning I made it incredibly clear that if my child's father ever wants to meet our son, I was going to allow it. My son deserves to know who his father is. Currently my son has only seen pictures and he asks about his dad often. Now, my boyfriend claimed to be 100% okay with this. He has no kids of his own but stepped in as a step-parent for my boy. He doesn't pay for anything of my son's. Me and his bio father do. And while I don't have contact with my son's father, we still maintain a very civil relationship when we do speak. 2 weeks ago his bip dad got a hold of me and said he thinks he is ready to meet him. He has since dropped the entire partying lifestyle and seems to be pretty well off considering his upbringing. I responded and we set up a date, which in the end he couldn't meet. He was T-boned and his vehicle was totaled when he was on the way to the meeting spot. He sent me pictures. During all of this my BF didn't say anything, so I had no reason to believe there was an issue. However, last night he told me that he doesn't want his son to meet his real dad. He says, what if he likes him more than me? Or why does he feel like he can just step in after 7 years? He has tried convincing me to tell my son's father that he isn't seeing him. I told him no, that this is my decision and I have been clear about my stance since day one. That I understood his concerns, but ultimately, this is for my son's benefit. He is sulking now and saying I'm being insensitive to his feelings, while I personally think it's a selfish request. AITA? NTA. It's great that he feels connected to your son, but his preferences don't take priority over your son's well-being and your wishes as a parent. He needs to get on board. If your son wants to meet his father, that's what should be done. Nah. Sounds like the boyfriend is somewhat naturally leery about what effect on your son this introduction of bio dad will have. That's perfectly natural and I would hope/presume you have those same thoughts and feelings. The boyfriend knows it's your sole decision, which may actually make him feel even more threatened/dispensable/not relevant, if you know what I mean. I'm giving boyfriend the benefit of the doubt here by hoping the boyfriend not being truly jerky or controlling. Is he in other ways just seeing another possible point of view? Is his position regarding himself here self-centered/selfish? Yes, but it's also somewhat normal given the circumstances and hopefully is a strong indication of his true attachment to your son. So of course you're right to say boyfriend has no say, but maybe try to be somewhat sensitive to his feeling of displacement. I think it's the very fact that your boyfriend has no say is what's bugging him, if you know what I mean. NTA. You are 100% correct that this is your choice and not your boyfriend's. Fact that your boyfriend's arguments were all about him, what if he likes him more than me, is really troubling. Admittedly, I don't see the whole relationship, but he sounds incredibly self-centered. I would consider this a warning sign for the future. It feels like the BF doesn't really get what it is to be a parent. Any decisions are based on what is best for the child, especially one of this magnitude. He needs this aspect of parenting clearly laid out for him. That may help him understand. AITA for not letting my parents visit me after they sent me to a military boarding school in Turkmenistan. I grew up in Chelyabinsk, Russia, a fairly decent-sized city in central Russia, kind of close to Kazakhstan. My parents were in charge of some local mining operations and this were fairly well off. I admit, I was a bit of a shithead as a middle schooler/teen. I did drugs, drank excessively, graffitied, and other stuff. I did get arrested a couple times. My parents then decided to send me to a military boarding school in Turkmenistan. Like, what the fuck, why? I begged them not to. I promised I'll change. I asked for a therapist. Boarding school in Russia or a Western country, just not there. They said I needed to learn the hard way. Really, I think they just wanted me gone. My dad and I flew to Ashgabat when I was 15. I just assumed Shoal would be in Russian. Everyone speaks Russian in Turkmenistan. Nope, turns out my school was in Turkmen. Fucking great. First year was hell, I didn't understand the teachers. Thankfully most students were nice and helped me out. After a year I eventually spoke proficient Turkmen. My grades rose. My parents called or emailed like once a month. They usually ignored me. They visited once a year, or I went back. At this point my parents were dead to me. My first summer they didn't even let me come back to Russia, so I had to work and provide for myself in Mary, city in Turkmenistan, not a girl, which is where I met the love of my life, Ogul Jerik. She visited me and snuck into my school all the time. She's amazing. Her family took care of me too. I consider them to be my parents more than my biological ones. I didn't see my parents for another 1.5 years until graduation, which they did visit. At this point I really didn't give a shit about them. They seemed all excited to see me and bring me back to Russia. I told them no, I'm not going back with them to Russia, in going to the Turkmen military academy. They were fucking pissed, saying in Russian and their son. I told them they abandoned me, so I'm abandoning them. Years later I'm a colonel, not sure the equivalent or translation, and I fly a Sukhoi 25, my job is awesome. My parents are begging me to visit them or have missed a visit. I've always told them to piss off. They're toxic AF and just want to brag about me. I'm not joking, they brag about my accomplishments on VK, Russian Facebook equivalent. My sister and other family are trying to mediate, but I'm not interested. I've visited and kept in contact with them.